My vocation story is a little different than some sisters might be. I started out my life going to Catholic school, elementary. I was taught by the Sisters of St. Joseph. And at that time of my life, I wanted to be a sister. But I thought I wanted to be a Carmelite sister. I thought I wanted to be one of the sisters who lived their life totally in prayer and never spoke to anyone. Well, anyone who has gotten to know me now knows that would have been a disaster. But God led me through my life. When I was 15, I went to Columbia, Pennsylvania for a retreat with the Adorers of the Blood of Christ. That was a wonderful retreat. I spent most of the weekend in tears as I felt God tug at my heart. Turns out one of my grade school friends ended up joining that community, Sister Joan Hornick. But it wasn't for me. I continued through high school, and the message that I received from the world and from people who I should not have listened to was, you're not non-material. You're not a good person that would be a good sister. So I kept living my life, and I kept doing things, and I ignored the call from God that never really went away until I was 38 years old. After 20 years of working in a local jewelry store in Johnstown, because I'm a Johnstown girl, I remember standing in the jewelry store talking to somebody one day, and I said, if God would let me have my way, I would be a sister in a heartbeat. And my friend said, so what's your way? And I said, I don't want to go to California or New York or Tanzania. I would love to just stay and work and serve the local church. And my friend said, why don't you look at the Carmelite community of the Word? They only work in our diocese. They don't travel around. Well, let me tell you, my friends, if you ever decide to challenge God, be careful, because I was dead in the water, but I wasn't dead. I was alive for the first time in years. One of the sisters of the Carmelite community of the Word, have you remembered that I said I wanted to be a Carmelite? Well, I looked into the Carmelite community of the Word. And one of the sisters from the Carmelite community of the Word was working in my parish. And I went and I talked to her. And after a long conversation and a lot of tears, I found myself on September 23rd, 1993, sitting in the library of Aquinas Hall in Ebensburg, talking to Sister Margie McGuire, who was the vocations director. And we talked about all the things that could happen, all the things that needed to happen before I became a sister. Sister Karen Grusik was the one that was working at St. John's, and she was of great help to me along the way. And as I watched all of the things that I thought would be obstacles fall away, because God was telling me, I'm letting you have your way. Now let's have my way. They all happened. This might have been a problem. Oh, let's get rid of this, I hear God say. That might have been a problem. Well, we can fix that. People I thought would give me such a hard time, like my family, were just joyous and happy for me to do this thing that I wanted to do. Oh, it wasn't always easy. There was a day or two when I thought I was losing my mind. And I remember sitting in St. John's Church, crying my eyes out one day, thinking, what the heck? What the heck? And I ran across a passage from the book of the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 29, verses 11 to 13, if you want to look it up. And it said, I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, and they're plans for hope and not for disaster. From the time I read that passage, I knew that God had me on the right track, and he was going to take care of me. And on August 14th, 1994, I walked in the door of Altoona, our convent in Altoona, and I was home. I knew I was home as soon as I walked in. The sisters greeted me warmly. Everybody did their best to make me feel at home. I have to say this, that religious life is not always 100% without trouble. But one of the things I always say, and I continue to say 32 years later, is that my worst day in community is better than my best day before I entered. Religious life has become a gift to me that God has given and continues to give to me. Every single day that I live with my sisters, every day that I work in the parish. I've been blessed to be at St. Benedict Parish. I just celebrated my 24th anniversary. And even that was a day that I felt God would hear me. I was getting ready to go on retreat one day. I was going to go on my 30-day retreat where you listened for God's voice in the silence. And I said to my sisters, when I get back, I'm going to have to look for a job. I need full-time ministry. And I hear there might be an opening at St. Benedict's in Johnstown, and boy, would I love to do that. And I went away on retreat for a month and never heard anything more in my mind about it. The day I got home, I found a note from Sister Marilyn, our community administrator, and she said, Monsignor Boggs from St. Benedict has called me and asked if anybody there would like to work at St. Benedict's. Once again, I felt God saying, I can do that. I can let you have your way. And here I am, 24 years and several priests later, and I'm just enjoying it so much. So what I want to say is this. If you hear God calling you, don't ever think you're not worthy. Don't ever think you're not made of the right stuff, because God can take anything and make it into what He wants. And God will let us have our own way. He will not always make us suffer. He will let us have our way. And He will bring us to every possible blessing that He can. Thank you.